Welcome to the Betting Pros PGA podcast. I'm Pat Fitzmaurice, joined by my tag team partner, Bo McBrayer. Today we have a full betting preview of the Genesis Scottish Open, because if it's not Scottish, it's crap. Before we get to that, Bo, I'm going to reluctantly pivot to a quick recap of the John Deere Classic, where for the second time this season, Brian Campbell won a tournament in a playoff, beating a player on whom I had a ticket. In late February, Brian Campbell got that first PGA Tour victory of his career when he beat Aldrich Potgieter in a playoff. In that tournament, Campbell sliced his drive on the second playoff hole. It seemed as if it was going to go out of bounds, but it struck a tree, landed in a very playable spot in the rough. It was a par 5. Campbell wound up making birdie on that hole, and it proved to be the winning birdie. Campbell did not need a friendly tree bounce this time around. He vanquished my guy, Emiliano Grillo, in a playoff at the John Deere Classic. All Campbell had to do was make a routine par on the par 4 18th, the first playoff hole. Grillo put his drive in the right rough, missed long with his approach shot, hit a sloppy little pitch that barely made it onto the back fringe, then couldn't sink his par putt. Campbell was leading late on Sunday. He relinquished his lead with a double bogey on the 14th hole after blowing his drive out of bounds, but Campbell made a clutch birdie on the par 5 17th. Grillo really hurt himself with a sloppy 3-putt bogey on the 15th hole when he held the lead down the stretch. Campbell and Grillo both finished 18 under par. That was 10 shots worse than Davis Thompson's winning score of 28 under par last year. TPC Deere Run was actually playing as tough as I've ever seen it play on Saturday. Pin positions were really difficult. The wind was up. Course was playing firm and fast. The lowest score on Saturday was 66. And normally you need to shoot 66 just to keep up with the competition at the John Deere. Kevin Roy and David Lipsky tied for second at 17 under par, just one shot back. Max Homa was among 6 players to finish 16 under par, 2 back. Bo mentioned Max Homa as an intriguing play on last week's show. Admittedly, I was very skeptical, but it turned out to be a really good call. Homa played well. Hopefully he's out of that horrible slump he's been in for more than a year. But back to Campbell for a moment. Brian Campbell now has 2 wins on the season. He has not finished top 30 in any other tournament apart from the 2 victories. Brian Campbell ranks dead last on tour in driving distance. He's averaging 276.6 yards off the tee. That ranks 174th. That is 3.4 yards behind the guy who ranks 173rd. So even though Brian Campbell has taken a lot of money out of my pocket this year, I don't hate him. I admire him. The guy is a grinder who's had to spend a lot of time on the Corn Ferry Tour. Campbell has talked about having been in a place where he had to reckon with the possibility of leaving golf and thinking about other career options. So as someone who is starting to deal with old man loss of distance off the tee, I certainly have to tip my hat to a guy who can win twice a season while routinely watching his playing partners blow their drives 50 yards past him. Good on you, Brian Campbell. Bo, your takeaways from the John Deere Classic.
Yeah, and not only is he not long off the tee, he's not even accurate off the tee. That's the insane part about this whole thing, is that the 2 tournaments that he won this year both had very little to no penalty for wayward tee shots. So, yes, he was very poor off the tee again this week, but he was so good on approach. His short game was so locked in, and he made enough putts to win this tournament. And it just seems like every time somebody gets down to the wire with Brian Campbell next to them, they turn into the worst golfer you've ever seen in your life. I had tickets with Max Homa, of course, cashed the top 5 and top 10 there, but not enough money to really make it worth your while. I had a top 20 that cashed on Jackson Koiven, but that was only 5-1. And then I ended up adding Kurt Kitayama as a live bet on Saturday night for 16-1, and had Kurt Kitayama made a 3-footer on 11 and a 4-footer on 12 for birdie, he would have made 5 birdies in a row on his back 9, and he would have been at 18 under par. He would have been in the playoff, but Kurt Kitayama missed the playoff because he missed 2 very much inside the leather birdie putts on 11 and 12 to vanquish him from competition. And so I don't hate Brian Campbell. In fact, Brian Campbell is one of the only Southern California golfers that I actually kind of like now, because his main sponsor on his bag is McCooney, which is one of the best sushi places in all of Northern California. My first time trying sushi ever was at a McCooney in Chico. So shout out to having a great sponsor, Brian Campbell. Shout out to getting your second win this year. You've taken a lot of money out of my pocket this year, as well as yours, Pat. We're moving on to the sacred ground, as they call it. But my reaction from the John Deere was that I'm happy for Brian Campbell, but I'm very sad that all of these great picks that we both made were all for naught.
Wait, Brian Campbell has the name of a sushi joint on his bag?
McCooney. Yep.
That's awesome. Now that's when you know a guy's a grinder, when he's got a sushi. That's like Chico's bail bonds on your
not
bag.
just a sushi place, but a regional Northern California sushi chain.
That's awesome. I am starting to like this guy. So, we are just 1 week away from Open Championship Week, which means we get the Genesis Scottish Open this week. This tournament is a joint venture between the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour, and we'll get a pretty good field, at least a top-heavy field. Maybe not quite as loaded a field as we've seen in the past. The middle class is kind of lacking in this one, but a lot of the big stars are here. Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, both playing. The Scottish Open returns to the Renaissance Club at North Berwick in eastern Scotland. The course sits on the coastline of the Firth of Forth, so weather conditions will be a big factor. The Renaissance Club was designed by Tom Doak. It is a par 70 that plays to 7,282 yards. There are 5 par 3s on the course, which is rather unusual. So 5 par 3s and a par 70, stretching out to almost 7,300 yards. There are some long holes on this one. Mainly with the par 4s. So I'll get to that in a second. So the Renaissance Club offers many of the elements of links golf. Fairways in Scotland tend to be very firm, so players are going to get a lot of run out on their tee shots. That can make it really hard for players to keep their drives on the fairway, but the fescue rough at the Renaissance Club, not all that punishing for the most parts, unless you land in a really bad spot. The greens are big, and they tend to run slow, as a lot of the courses do in Scotland. Bunkers are going to be more of a factor this week than they typically are in PGA Tour events. These bunkers are deeper than you normally see in the States, and sometimes all you can do is just pop your ball out a few yards. Short game creativity is going to be important. We'll see a lot of little bump and run shots around the greens this week. The Renaissance Club has those 3 par 5s, and they all range from 576 yards to 600 yards. Long but reachable, especially with the extra roll on the fairways. And 3 of the par 5s measure longer than 200 yards. Those holes are going to be murderous if the wind is not cooperating. The other 2 are short ones, 147 yards, 161 yards. 5 of the par 4s measure 483 yards or longer. But the par 4 fifth hole, only 347 yards, and will invite players to have a go at the green if the wind permits. Native Scott Robert MacIntyre is the defending champion. He was 18 under par last year in winning his home country's national championship in pretty benign conditions for the most part. MacIntyre beat Adam Scott by 1 stroke. Rory McIlroy won in 2023, finishing minus 15, 1 shot better than MacIntyre. And in 2022, we had some weather that year, Bo. Xander Schauffele won at 7 under par in very breezy conditions. The weather forecast for this week's tournament is suitably Scottish, I would say. There's showers in the forecast for the first 3 days of the tournament. Winds are expected to blow in the 10 to 15 mile an hour range throughout, but who knows? Scottish weather is notoriously unpredictable. Bo McBrayer, my Scottish-blooded friend, please share your thoughts on the Genesis Scottish Open and what it's going to take to win this tune-up event for the Open Championship.
I was just going to say, when I checked the weather earlier today, that it said that there was sunshine in the forecast for all 4 days and highs in the mid to high 50s to lower 60s with no rain and no wind in the forecast. Obviously, that changes on a dime. That is this tournament in a nutshell. This tournament will be as easy, or if not easier, than the John Deere Classic if the winds stay down. because this golf course is completely defended by the elements. You don't have a whole lot of danger on this golf course per se, except for out of position bunkering. If you run through the fairway with a wayward tee shot, you're not going to be out of position too bad. But if the wind picks up, if you start to get some gales or squalls, as they call them, off that North Sea, then it could change instantly. We can go automatically back to 2022 conditions, which brings a whole different golfer into contention. This is either going to be a birdie fest where the winner is 22, 23 under par, or it could be single digits depending on the weather, completely dependent on the weather. And the one stat that I can really bank on here is strokes gained around the green and scrambling, because even though there's not a lot of danger on this course, it's not always easy to navigate if you miss the green. And the greens are big, they're slow. It's still going to take some good chipping and some good around the green creativity, finesse, just being able to navigate around links style golf course. This is more of a parkland hybrid nouveau links, as I call it, where there's not as many on the shoreline ocean holes as you get from next week at Royal Portrush or at St. Andrews, for example. That's pure links, is all along the coastline the whole way. This is going to cut inland for most of the holes, but there are some links elements to it either way. It's still in Scotland. You still got all the elements that you have to deal with there. The red fescue grass all the way throughout. It's just going to come down to whoever adjusts to the weather the best will win this tournament, whether it's 7 under par like a few years ago with Xander, or a 22 under par like a couple of years ago when everything was calm and benign.
Yeah, what else do you play up here in your model, Bo, besides scrambling? Because I wasn't really sure what to emphasize when I was giving this a first look.
Yeah, so in this week, it's a little bit of you kind of contradict yourself, because I want some guys who are prepared for the weather changing. So I'll more emphasize scrambling versus just your short gain or around the green stats. But there's still birdie or better percentage. There's still bogey avoidance. And basically every week I'm usually focused on approach or good drives gained. This week I'm looking at total strokes gained, and I look at a 24 to 36 hole window. And you can also fine tune it by link style golf courses. If you include Renaissance Club as a link style golf course with all the other Rota courses that they play over the years, if you go back to the last 24 rounds of link style play, that gives you an idea of which guys are used to this, which guys excel in this, and maybe which guys we want to stay away from, because maybe it's just not the style of golf that best suits their game. For this week, it's total strokes gain, more of a macro view of the whole thing, but maybe filtering for the possibility of weather and for the possibility that link style golf is different enough to maybe give us an inside edge on who the best numbers are to bet on. Because again, we're not betting on the players, we're betting on the lines. I want to make sure that we handicap this correctly, which has gone well for us in the past.
And we will give you those lines for the Genesis Scottish Open in just a moment, right after Bo tells you about the BettingPros app.
Download the free BettingPros app for iOS and Android. With Sportsbook Sync, automatically track your bets across all major sportsbooks in one spot. Easily monitor your bet performance by sport and bet type, including game picks, props, and parlays. Go ahead and create your own custom betting systems to find winning trends and profitable opportunities. Get your 7-day free trial of BettingPros Premium by downloading the app at bettingpros.com/apps using the code JUICE and activating your trial on the upgrade screen.
Let's check on the odds for the Genesis Scottish Open. All odds are courtesy of DraftKings as of Monday afternoon. Scottie Scheffler is plus 360. Rory McIlroy is plus 720. Xander Schauffele is plus 2,000. Tommy Fleetwood plus 2,200. Colin Morikawa plus 2,500. Robert McIntyre and Ludvig Aberg are plus 3,000. Justin Thomas is plus 3,500. Sam Burns, Viktor Hovland, and Matt Fitzpatrick are plus 4,000. Corey Connors is plus 4,500, and Sepp Straka is plus 5,000. Only 13 players with odds of 50 to 1 or shorter, Bo. Who do you like from among the favorites?
It's hard not to like Scottie, but I actually like Rory McIlroy better this week. He's more in tune with link style golf. In fact, if you go back to the last 24 rounds of link style play, he has the most total strokes gained in this entire field, and it's by a long shot. Across the board, Rory McIlroy gains the most strokes. Obviously, Scottie Scheffler gains the most on approach, but if we look at the whole bag, Rory McIlroy's king. And right behind him in that department is Xander Schauffele. So I like both of those guys. Xander Schauffele getting 20-1 odds this week. Love it. This guy owns link style golf. He won the Open Championship last year. He's a prior winner of the Renaissance Club. Very, very underrated at this opening line of 20-1. I like Rory at plus 750. I love Xander at 20-1. And then I think I might get a little Sam Burns in here because of his short game prowess. Sam Burns at 35-1 is a little short, but I still want a piece of that.
Yeah, Burns has played really well of late. Top 20 in each of his last 5 events and 7 of his last 8. Last play the Scottish Open in 2023, he was 19th that year. Yeah, we haven't seen Scottie Scheffler since last month's Travelers Championship where he finished 6th. Wasn't putting especially well last time we saw him. He did not play the Scottish Open last year. He did play it in 2023 and finished 3rd. About Rory, Bo, I kind of feel the same way you did. Like, he won the Scottish in 2023, finished 4th last year. He's obviously comfortable at the Renaissance Club. Rory got off to that incredible start this season, winning the Players Championship, the Masters. Wasn't a factor at the PGA or the US Open. We know how much he would love to win the Open Championship in his native Northern Ireland. I mean, does this mean that Rory puts on his game face this week and brings his best to the Scottish Open? I think there's a chance that's what we see this week. So, yeah, and you mentioned Xander. I mean, he won here in 2022, finished top 15 in 3 of his last 4 Scottish Opens. Hasn't had a top 10 finish, though, since the Masters. Like, that's the one thing that concerns me a little bit. But as you mentioned, Bo, like, Xander's obviously really comfortable with links golf.
He's comfortable when things get a little bit crazy out there weather-wise, and his short game's as good as it gets. So I'm not worried about his short game at all. Rory's distance advantage is huge. And really, if you're betting plus 360 on Scottie Scheffler, you're hoping his putting on link-style golf courses get better, because in every category he gains strokes on the field in link-style golf, except for putting. He's lost 4 strokes over his last 24 rounds on the greens. Maybe it's something he's not comfortable reading because there's so many little bumps and bruises and they run really slow. Scottie Scheffler excels on smooth, fast greens, not so much on these slow, bumpy greens that you're going to see at the Renaissance Club and next week at Royal Portrush.
Now, Tommy Fleetwood probably offers the best combination of recent form and course fit. He's finished top 5 in 3 of his last 6 events. Fleetwood has finished 6th or better in 3 of his last 5 trips to the Renaissance Club, but Fleetwood is still looking for his first PGA Tour victory, and we have not seen him since that painful loss at the Travelers Championship, where he took a one-shot lead into the final hole and wound up losing when he made bogey.
Just his most recent painful loss.
Yeah, right. Yes. So that was a bad one, losing to Keegan Bradley in that one.
Plus 400 to get Tommy Fleetwood top 5. Absolutely do not bet him to win outright. Yeah.
If you're going to bet him top 5 or top 10, seems like the way to go. I feel like we are getting a really good price on Robert McIntyre to win. He's Scottish. He won here last year. He was runner-up to Rory 2 years ago. McIntyre's finished top 20 in 4 of his last 5 events and almost won the U.S. Open. So,
is Dougie on the bag? The grass cutter?
Interesting question. I don't know. Is his dad gonna caddy for him?
I don't think it matters, but it would be great to see Dougie out there, like just walking with Bob. I just love watching Bobby Mack play. It's like that's a fun guy to watch. He's super, super nice and humble. That's somebody I'll be rooting for. I don't know if I'll be betting him because 30-1. You mentioned that the field's strong, but not overly strong. I think this is the strongest field of the season for a non-major because of the DP World Tour guys that are coming into play here. And in this next tier of guys, I'm going to go over a couple that maybe aren't on your radar because they're not playing on the PGA Tour yet. They will be soon. This field is extremely strong. Just because the name brand isn't great outside the top 5, it doesn't mean that this field isn't very stacked.
Yeah, two more guys to ask you about real quick, Bo, and Justin Thomas is not one of them. He has missed cut 60th and 62nd in his last three Scottish Opens. I think
Yeah,
you can just
he's
scratch Justin
and
Thomas
he's
off
been
your
so
card.
bad off the tee this season that he just
Yep.
can't. You can't recover from bad tee shots on the PGA Tour.
Yeah. Okay, so Ludvig Aberg was fourth here last year, but he missed the cut in his 2023 Scottish Open debut, missed the cut at last year's Open Championship. I'm not sure I'm ready to trust him on links style courses yet, Bo.
No,
What about you? Not you
no,
either?
no, he
Okay.
can't chip, so we're not there yet.
All
He's
right.
talented enough to turn it around, but we're not there yet.
Speaking of chipping problems, what about Viktor Hovland? He has not finished better than 25th in two previous Scottish Opens, but he's had some pretty strong performances in the Open Championship in recent years. Not last year when he missed the cut, but I think he had three straight top 15s. And one of those was maybe like a fifth or a sixth at the Open Championship.
I like him on a pure ball strikers course, but this isn't one of those. This is like you have to have the whole bag in especially with this course, this field being so strong and diverse. I think you need to have all the tricks of the trade at full command to win at the Scottish. Bobby Mack last year, obviously Rory a couple years ago, and Xander. Those are all guys who are just locked into the whole bag. And that take nothing away from Viktor Hovland. He won the Valspar this year, but that's more of like a approach game paradise. Like if you have great iron play, you can win the Valspar. If you just have great iron play, you're not even going to finish top 10 at the Renaissance Club. The Scottish is about playing all the golf. The entire bag has to be locked in. It will be the same next year or next week on just a more scrutinized basis in a major situation. But this is everybody's tune-up. This is going to be everybody's kind of measuring stick. Where's my game going into the Open? And it's a big deal. The Scottish is a really big deal for these guys. That's why there's so many of these top names in the field ready to get ready for Northern Ireland next week.
We will get to the odds on some of the mid-range options in just a moment. But first, I'm going to let Bo tell you about Novig.
Are you looking for a smarter way to play? There's a new sports trading platform that's changing the game. It's called Novig. It's legal in most states, including Georgia, California, and Texas. It's peer-to-peer, which means you're competing against other users, not the house. You can often get better lines than traditional books. You can set your own lines, which gives you control most sports books just don't offer. There are no commissions or hidden fees. Seriously. It takes a coin deposit system, but it's real money. And you can use code DailyJuice for 50% off your first coin purchase up to $25. Check it out now at bettingpros.com/juice. That's bettingpros.com/juice. Our colleague here at Betting Pros, Mike Mayer, is on it every single day. He's a Novig fanatic. I think fanatic is a really extreme word. He might even be more extreme than that about Novig. He's always dropping screenshots in the Discord and pics to hopefully get some people to tail him. If you have questions or if you want to tail Mike Mayer, he's happy to help.
Let's look at some more of the odds. Adam Scott is plus 5,500. Taylor Pendrith, Ryan Fox, Aaron Ryan, JJ Spawn are plus 6,000. Harry Hall, Harris English, and Wyndham Clark are plus 6,500. Tom Kim, Sung Jae Im, and Maverick McNeely are plus 7,500. And then there's a big group at plus 8,000 that includes Thomas Dietrich, Siwoo Kim, Daniel Berger, Rasmus Højgaard, Alex Noren, Max Grazerman, and Justin Rose. What about this group, Bo?
So this group is loaded with guys who can win this tournament, might win this tournament. And unlike last week where the mid-range was off limits, I mean, we had a 400-1 guy win the tournament for crying out loud. It was the mid-range this week is the opposite. There's lots of guys that I like here. Aaron Rye is intriguing, but I just can't stand watching him play. He plays too slow. He plays with two gloves and iron covers. I can't stand to watch him play, but he's got a good knack for this place. I'm not sure about Ryan Fox yet, but his distance is going to be an advantage here. That's intriguing. Harry Hall is where I come every time. Harry Hall, the Englishman, masterful short game, masterful putter, makes tons and tons of birdies. So whereas the weather gets nasty, he's a Brit. He can handle it. If the weather stays nice and it becomes a birdie fest, which sometimes happens here at the Scottish, Harry Hall makes birdies like no other. I think Harry Hall is worth the full ladder. He's getting crazy odds. For him being in this tier at all surprises me. I would have put him around 30 to 35 to 1. The fact that he's in this mid-range means I'm going all the way up the top, and that's where I'm going to put a lot of my money is on Harry Hall to win the Scottish.
Yeah, he has quietly finished top 20 in 6 straight events, although his best finish during that stretch was a 6th at the Charles Schwab Challenge. So maybe that's it, that he hasn't really seriously contended. But yeah, Hall does seem to have the game for this place. And, if it's windy, he's going to have to hold on to that riding cap.
I couldn't believe he was 60 to 1.
That is kind of remarkable.
I have one more for you. And this is a guy who's on the DP World Tour right now at 80 to 1. Neergaard-Peterson. Yeah.
Neergaard-Peterson. So he's down to 80 to 1 now. Okay. He was earlier today. He was not in that range. So what do you like about Neergaard-Peterson?
He hits the snot out of the golf ball. He's one of the longest hitters out there. Very, very good all-around player. This is a guy who's going to be on the PGA Tour probably as soon as next year. Just hammers the golf ball. And when it comes to distance advantage, he makes it count. This guy has made a lot of opportunities for himself over the last year and a half. I'm adding on driving distance as we speak, a little heavier, so I can see how far he jumps to the top, because he's another Aldrich Potgieter type that just smashes the golf ball.
Now,
yeah,
go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, getting back to Ryan Fox for a second, 2 wins over the last 2 months, the One Flight Myrtle Beach Classic and the Canadian Open, along with 3 other top 20 finishes. He's been playing really, really, really well. And he has played in the last 6 Scottish Opens dating back to when it was just a European Tour event. His track record's been pretty unremarkable, but he did finish 12th in 2023. He knows the place now. So, yeah, Adam Scott finished second at the Renaissance Club last year and has been in pretty solid form lately, although he hasn't seriously contended for a title this season. Well, I guess he was contending for the U.S. Open until he went up in flames on Sunday afternoon. Anyone else, Bo? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking up the stats for Neergaard-Peterson on the DP World Tour, and he's just, when it comes to what he's done this year, it's been under the radar, but I think that he's exactly what we're looking for this week at 80 to 1. Everything, all the unknowns about him are baked into that price. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he finished top 10 or even won this thing. 80 to 1 for a guy of his quality, for a guy that we're going to be speaking his name on the PGA Tour and in major tournaments going forward. That's a name to look out for.
I was surprised to see Tom Kim at odds shorter than 100 to 1, considering how poorly he's been playing this season. Right. And, when you're not playing simulator golf, at least on ESPN. But Tom Kim actually seems to really like the Renaissance Club. In his last 3 Scottish Open appearances, he's finished 3rd, 6th, and 15th. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that can get him out of the doldrums. He did finish in a tie for 7th at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am long time ago. 33rd at the U.S. Open. I just don't know if I can back Tom Kim.
Yeah, Tom Kim is on that short list of great players in the last 24 rounds on link style golf. So maybe he just has a knack for link style golf. Could be. Yeah, his form this year has been absolutely terrible. So I'm with you on that, on the fade there.
He's a links golf and simulator golf specialist. What about long shots, Bo? Anyone you like at 90 to 1 or longer?
Funny you should ask, Pat. I have a couple here. One of them's at 120 to 1, and it's another DP World Tour guy, Marco Penge. Marco Penge is another absolute bomber of the golf ball who's going to be hitting a lot of short clubs into these holes. He is also 25th overall in strokes gained from tee to green in this field, which is very noteworthy since we have all of the top 5 in the world here. He's got a great short game, 27th in this field in strokes gained around the green. And he's just a masher. He's out there taking advantage of golf courses like this with his distance. One knock on him is he's not a very good putter, but overall he's going to be in positions that'll allow him to get a lot of birdie opportunities. So if the weather stays okay, I like Marco Penge, but if it gets nasty, I mean, it's 120 to 1 bet. I also like Matt McCarty at 170 to 1. We've been talking about him periodically throughout the year. kind of disappointing last week, but I think he's got the game for this type of tournament. And do you want me to say my deep shot, or do you want me to save it?
Go for it. Hit me with the deep one.
At 500-1, David Ford. That's the PGA Tour University guy from University of North Carolina. He is the top college golfer in the United States, and 500-1 for a guy with his talent. It wouldn't surprise me if he maybe not at the Open Championship, but in his first like worldwide tournament this week at the Scottish. David Ford's got lots and lots of talent, and 500-1. I'm willing to see how he does.
At 250-1, could Brian Campbell beat someone that I'm going to bet this week in a playoff, Bo?
I would say you probably have more than a 0 chance, but not more than a 1% chance. So yes, there's always a chance that the boogeyman Brian Campbell comes out and does it to us for the 3rd time this year, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Look, the rollout on these hard fairways is going to help him, and he kind of reminds me of a guy I'm going to mention who's 90-1, Bo. Your favorite, Brian Harman. This dude just likes links golf. He's won the Open Championship. He was 12th at the Scottish Open in 2023, 21st last year. The lack of distance doesn't kill him because of these, generous, hard fairways that give him extra distance. And while he struggled this year, Harman did finish 8th in his most recent event, the Travelers Championship.
If I consider somebody to be the poor man's Brian Harman, how poor does that make you?
Exactly. That would be Brian Campbell, I guess.
Brian Harman's a lot better than Brian Campbell, especially on link style golf courses.
I'll mention one other long shot real quickly. Andrew Putnam is 170-1. In his last 3 events, he's finished 6th at the Canadian Open, 8th at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and then he withdrew from the John Deere Classic this past Friday with a back injury, but I wonder how serious the injury was. Putnam was headed for a miscut, and he withdrew immediately after a double bogey on the 18th hole at the end of his first 9 holes. The clubhouse was right there, just saying. So Putnam finished 6th at the 2019 Scottish Open when it was still a European Tour event. I think he's kind of intriguing at those long odds. All right, Bo, so who is on your early betting card?
I have Rory at plus 750, Xander at plus 2,000, Sam Burns at plus 3,500, Harry Hall, full ladder on Harry Hall, plus 6,000 to win it all. Neergaard-Peterson at 80-1, and my long shots are Marco Penge at 120-1, Matt McCarty at 170-1, and David Ford from the University of North Carolina plus 50,000. That's 500 buckaroos to 1 buckaroo if he wins this thing somehow. You might want to just throw on a top 20 or make the cut kicker for that guy because he's way down the board.
I've got Rory McIlroy at plus 720. I got to find where you got him at plus 750, Bo. Excuse me. Did I say Rory? Yeah, Rory is plus 720. I've got Robert McIntyre at plus 3,000 and plus 550 for a top 5. I've got Brian Harman at 90-1. Sorry, Bo. I'm also going to throw a top 10 bet on him at plus 600. And I think I'm going to throw a little something on Andrew Putnam at 170-1, assuming he's still in the field. And Bo, I was saving one spot on my dance card for one of your favorites, and you've talked me into Harry Hall. I'm going to put something on him this week.
Let's go.
Now for our one and done picks, Bo took Denny McCarthy last week. He tied for 11th, good for $174,300. I took Michael Thorbjornsen. He tied for 21st, good for $91,980. Bo's ahead of me by a little more than $500,000. I am up first this week, Bo, and I am taking Robert McIntyre.
Bobby Mack.
How about you?
So I'm going to use my best judgment and just take the money and run. I'm going to take Tommy Fleetwood.
Tommy Fleetwood. Hey, man, I played him earlier this year, and he got me almost $500,000. So
I need $500,000 out of Tommy this week, and his top 5 and top 10 streak is probably going to stay alive this week. So I'll play it safe and not expect to win because he won't. But you never know. He doesn't win on the United States soil. Maybe he can win back in European soil.
Yeah, he's probably not giving you the multi-million-dollar victory, but he can very well give you a 6-figure pay.
If he does, I'm taking full credit.
And that's going to do it for this week's BettingPros PGA podcast. Please come join us again next week when we will be previewing the final major of the year, the Open Championship at Royal Portrush in Northern Ireland. We can't wait. to dig into that one, and we hope you'll come along for the ride. Until then, so long, everyone.